Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tips, tools, and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. When we are experiencing any type of physical symptoms, maybe bronchitis, asthma, COPD, one of the first emotions that comes to my mind when I'm working with people is the emotion of grief or loss. Deep-seated grief and loss can get trapped in the lungs, in the tissues of the lungs. And if we don't process that loss or that grief, then it will continually come up to us in those physical symptoms. So maybe every year, around a certain time of year, you notice yourself getting pneumonia or some sort of an allergy, and you just kind of assume it could be because of environmental reasons, but there really could be a deeper meaning as to why you are experiencing those types of physical symptoms. Maybe, when you were a child during the month of August or September, you experienced a loss. Maybe it doesn't even have to necessarily be the loss of a person. It could be the loss of an animal. Change that maybe happened where you left schools and you went from one school to another and you lost some friends in that process. Maybe you start to see this repetition every single time during a particular month that you start to feel some sort of physical symptoms in your lungs that could be associated to grief. So when we're suffering with deep grief and we are not processing, then it's going to continually come back time and time again until we take the time to really focus on that grief and to let it go. There could be a situation where this may not even be your grief. This could be the grief of your mother. When you were in the womb of your mom and maybe she suffered some deep grief. Now for me, for example, my grandfather died right after I was born. So my mom started to go through that grieving process before I was even born. And I picked up on these emotions because these emotions are energetic, right? So emotions are energy in motion. Before I was even born, I was soaking up her grief and her feelings of deep loss, kind of like a sponge. And when I was born, I started to carry on those particular heavy feelings. And as a kid, I remember I had asthma my entire childhood. Really could be an energetic transfer from my mom's emotions that were transferred to me as a child. So when we're working with grief and loss, and stick to the area of the lungs, we're looking at the heart chakra. There are definitely different types of things that you can do to help bring these emotions to the surface. Now, for some of you, those emotions may come naturally to the surface, especially around the holidays. If there's someone in your life that you have lost, or a pet, and the holidays start to trigger those things deep within inside of you and they start to bubble to the surface, then the best thing to do is just let them come to the surface and let them come out. The more emotion that we hold into our body, the more that we keep building that pressure and building that pressure. And if we don't actually click on that release valve, then all we're doing is we are just building it up, and it's bound to come out one way or another. It's going to come out through crying, through lashing out at others. It could come out in physical symptoms and ailments, maybe through rashes or other types of symptoms. So when you feel those emotions bubbling to the surface, then let them come to the surface and let them out. Feel them. Process through that. Don't be afraid to not show those feelings. Don't suppress those feelings, because all they're going to do is they're going to make a full circle and they're going to come back again. And they may not come back in the next month or two, but they're probably going to come back again at the same time of the year that they continually seem to be resurfacing. So grief is one of the ones that gets really stuck in the lungs. Another one is not feeling approval. Whether you're not feeling approval from others, maybe you're in a job and you're working really hard and you aren't necessarily getting that recognition that you feel that you need, and you're not feeling like you're doing the best that you possibly can, or people aren't sharing that recognition with you. that can definitely get trapped in the lungs. Another one is when you are deeply, deeply hurt. Like if you are in love with someone and then they break up with you. Have you ever had that happen to you, and then within a few days you come down with a cold, or you get the flu, or you get bronchitis or pneumonia or something? That's because those particular emotions get lodged in the lungs. That's the place where they like to go. So if you are, going through something where maybe you were betrayed and you were deeply hurt, if you're having some sort of a lung issue, whether it be asthma or COPD, ask yourself, when did this happen? When did this particular emotion happen? And go back to that moment of in time and try to heal yourself from that particular circumstance or situation. Another emotion that gets trapped in the lungs is when we feel like our life is monotonous. If we are in a constant state of routine, we're on autopilot all the time, we're just going through the motions, there's no spontaneity in our life, there's no sweetness, there's just a lot of kind of boredom really, and it's just that day-to-day, same old, get up, do the same things, go to sleep, and then just continually to do that from day to day. I call that living in the matrix. You're constantly on that hamster wheel all the time. That's definitely an emotion that can get lodged or trapped in the lungs. So crying, sadness, sorrow, any type of maybe defensiveness is actually something that you could see. If you're finding yourself being super defensive, that is a good sign that you may have some emotions that are trapped in your lungs. Even self-abuse, if you're self-sabotaging yourself or you're super, super stubborn. Stubbornness is a key sign or a symptom that you've got emotions that are trapped in the lungs. Not being able to do things the way that you want to do them. Maybe you're in a relationship and your partner is telling you that you have to do things this way, and you feel like you don't want to do them that way. You want to do them differently. Or you're working at a job where you're coming up with really great ideas and no one is accepting those ideas or wanting to follow through with those ideas. And then you find yourself getting some sort of congestion in your lungs. Those are definitely some trapped emotions that can cause havoc on you. So what are some ways that we can release those trapped emotions? So there are some physical ways that you can release those trapped emotions. And one of the ways that I love to use is called black seed oils. And what the black seed does is it gets into those lungs and it pulls that gunk out of there. So about a week ago, I started to come down with some sniffles, and I was like, I am not going to let this get into my chest. And so I started taking about a teaspoon of this black seed oil with about a teaspoon of unfiltered raw honey. And within 3 days, that thing was knocked out of my body. So they say in India that black seed oil cures everything but death. Get out there and do your research on it. This is one of the best remedies to have in your medicine cabinet. It's fantastic, specifically for the lungs. If you're having any lung problems, if you are a smoker and you've stopped smoking, start a regimen with black seed oil. Another thing that you can use to help you release these trapped emotions naturally is by using flower essences. So here's an example of a flower essence. This one here is Star of Bethlehem. There are several different flower essences, and they're called Bach flower essences. Edward Bach is the one who created them. And basically, he found that by taking the dew off of the flowers and collecting those essences, and when you linked it to a specific emotion in the body, whether it be a human or an animal, it would actually alter the frequency or the vibration of that particular person, and it would help alleviate or rid yourself of those emotions. So Star of Bethlehem is a wonderful one if you have experienced any type of trauma. So if you've experienced a loss of someone, and in that particular circumstance, there was a trauma that had happened where you're still holding on to that. Maybe it was a phone call. Maybe it was, being at the hospital. Maybe it was a car accident or the scene of the accident. Star of Bethlehem is a wonderful flower essence to take in those particular circumstances. So another good flower essence to take, say you are dealing with some sort of a guilt situation. Maybe you lost someone and it revolved around around something where you feel really guilty or really shameful. Pine flower essence is a good one for you to incorporate into your daily routine. So now when you're taking these flower essences, all you're doing is putting those drops under your tongue, and it'll tell you how to do it on the back of the bottle. So you're going to put 2 drops. You can either do it into your drink or do it neat, straight under your tongue. It's really up to you. When you do this, you're going to want to do this over the course of 2 weeks to a month, and you'll begin to notice you will start to do things differently. So if you are dealing with trauma or grief in a really deep way, and you're having a difficult time functioning or just getting through your daily routine, you'll begin to notice that things will get a little bit easier for you. Especially with Star of Bethlehem, you start to see that there is hope, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You aren't going to feel so fearful, especially if it was a trauma-based situation that you went through. And you will begin to notice yourself slowly shifting. This isn't something that you take at night and then you wake up the next day and you're a miraculously different person. This is something that over the course of time that you take, you slowly begin to shift. And what you're doing is you're shifting your energetic vibration. And when you do that, you're going from a lower energetic state to a higher energetic state. There's certain emotions that hold us down, that keep us in that lower vibrational state. Grief, fear, shame, guilt. Those are some key ones that keep us in that lower vibrational state. So pine is really great for guilt. If you're having any difficulties with feeling withdrawn or isolated from society, like maybe you're completely isolating yourself and shutting yourself off from the world, then water violet is going to be an excellent flower essence for you to try. So this one can be for the empath as well, water violet. We have a tendency to want to isolate ourselves and shut ourselves off from the world because sometimes it can be too much for us out there. So for those of you who are empaths, you may want to do a little bit of research on water violet. That may be a good one for you to incorporate into your daily routine. If you're having no hope in things getting better and no hope in life, then sweet chestnut is a good flower essence for you to try. And if you're having any disinterest in life, then you may want to give wild rose a good look at. So those are some good flower essences that you can physically do to help alleviate some of those emotions that can get trapped in your lungs. Now, for those of you who are into crystals, if you want to take a look at clearing the energy around those particular trapped emotions, then you're going to want to look at the heart chakra crystals. Those are going to be the ones that are maybe pink or green. So green aventurine is a really good one. And this one is really great for abundance too. So if you are trying to clear your heart chakra, then you can also incorporate that into your intention setting. And my go-to crystal, no matter what the chakra is, no matter what the issue is, especially when you're dealing with some sort of grief, is going to be rose quartz. Rose quartz is my go-to crystal other than black tourmaline. Rose quartz is the one that will open up your heart. It will help heal your heart. So if you're doing any meditations around releasing the grief or letting go of that loved one or letting go of that particular circumstance, then incorporate the rose quartz with you. You can lay it right on your chest while you're laying down and doing your meditation, or you can hold it in your hands if you're sitting and doing your meditation that way. It's a really great crystal to use. So other ways that if you find that these aren't necessarily getting to that root deep cause of your grief or of your lung ailment, are going to be through EFT tapping or the emotion code. I am a practitioner in both of those. So if you would like to schedule a session, then you can visit my website. Also, QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique, is a wonderful modality that you can use to help you really dive deeper into figuring out what that grief is. Some of us have grief that goes even beyond our life. Could be something that goes into a past life. That's where QHHT, or beyond quantum healing hypnosis, is going to dive deeper to figure out where that is. But most of the time, the grief that we are suffering with is something that we are suffering with in this lifetime, and we can get in there and at least tackle a large portion of that. So I hope that some of these techniques can help you move forward in your life, can help you let go and move past whatever it is that may be causing you this grief, and what may be causing you some of these symptoms that could be blocking that energetic flow in your body. You deserve to navigate your life in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.theexistentialempath.com.